Yo, what is up, guys? It is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, back at today with another fantasy football video. In today's video, I'm going over the Week 10 waiver wire adds, a lot of running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends in this video, so make sure that you guys watch throughout the whole thing. Now, before I get into these Week 10 waiver wire adds, I would like to give you guys a word from my sponsor, OverlayDFS.com. OverlayDFS.com is my favorite website to play daily fantasy on, and it is very, very, very simple. Even I can get and play well on this website. Now, it is very, very simple. Like I said, it's a start sit format. All you got to do is make 12 picks plus 3 alternate picks, and it is super simple. Pretty much right here, you can see one of the examples here would be Lamar Jackson versus Aaron Rodgers. Personally, Lamar Jackson against the Cincinnati Bengals, I think that is a very easy matchup. So to me, I think he will outscore Aaron Rodgers against the Carolina Panthers. It is that easy. All you got to do is do that 11 more times plus the 3 alternate picks, and you can go and try to win that money. Now, if you go that perfect 12 and 0 in the $109 game, you could win $28,000. I know that's like a lot of money, but even in the $2 game, you could win roughly $3,500 if you have that beautiful 12 and 0. Now, if you were in the top 10% of the entries in that contest, you win 9 times your buy-in, which is huge. But before I end this roll, I'd like to actually tell you guys a new strategy that I have discovered that I personally have used the last couple of weeks that I've found some success in. So, say I like Jameis Winston a lot this week to beat Drew Brees. So, I picked Jameis Winston against the Arizona Cardinals, and then I'm going to stack him with his wide receiver, Mr. Mike Evans, to beat Tyreek Hill. Because if I personally believe that Jameis Winston is going to have a good game, I also believe Mike Evans will, and then you get 2 correct pretty much for the price of 1. At least to me, that makes a lot of sense, and is something that I like to implore every week on OverlayDFS.com. So, make sure to check them out. Link down below in the description, OverlayDFS.com. And we are back. Make sure to check out OverlayDFS.com. Link down below in the description. Let's get right into this video. Week 10 waiver wire adds. And we start off with the running backs. And my first running back I'd like to talk about here is Kareem Hunt, running back of the Miami Dolphins. There is 19% ownership percentage on NFL.com. Obviously, you play on ESPN, Yahoo, MFL, CBS. Whatever you play on is going to be slightly different, but on NFL.com, that's his ownership percentage. I use that for every single video. Now, he should be the starter week 10 against the Colts. It seems like he would be the starter because it seems like he would be the best back, but he has not done much in the numbers department this season. He really has not been playing all that good. Obviously, he's been behind Drake, who was traded to Arizona, and Walton, who got suspended. So now is his true time to shine. Can we see if Kareem Hunt can go back to last season, where towards the end of the season he looked really good, but he just really has not shown much this year. So it's obviously kind of scary when you go to pick him up, not knowing how well he will perform against the Colts. But with that said, he's likely the starter on the team, and finding a starter on the waiver wire at the running back position is very, very valuable. Next running back here is the running back on the Miami Dolphins as well, and that is Mr. Myles Gaskins, running back of the Miami Dolphins, 0% ownership on NFL.com. No one owns him because the only reason to own him is now because he's now the number 2 back behind Ballage with Mark Walton and Kalen Ballage. He was useless, but now with with Mark Walton being suspended, he gets elevated into a potential starting role. Now, Ballage is not that good. He just isn't that good. Like I said, his numbers have not been that good this year. So I think there's potential for him to actually move past Kalen Ballage if Kalen Ballage is not able to perform against the Colts. So he's definitely a guy that I would be willing to stash in these deeper type of leagues where you can get a nice running back that may potentially put out value in the next couple of weeks, with the Dolphins potentially turning it around. Next running back here to talk about is Mr. Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones, the second running back of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 43.3% ownership on NFL.com. Now, Bruce Arians, Big BA, wants him to get more touches, and they named him the starter. So, obviously, that shows that he wants to get more touches. And he out-snapped Peyton Barber and Dare Agundabole, 42 snaps for Mr. Ronald Jones, 11 for Mr. Peyton Barber, and 21 to Mr. Dare week 9. And in week 9 against Seattle, against a defense that is kind of good against the run, 18 attempts for 67 yards and 1 touchdown plus 2 receptions for 16.2 PPR points. 18 attempts, that is crazy because a lot of running backs don't even get that many touches, and even though he did not put up a humongous game, I think he's definitely worth a waiver wire add. in a lot of situations because he's a running back that you could probably slot in as your flex. Now, you're not going to be super confident in the play, but if this ends up working out and he ends up from being a guy that is really inconsistent to end up being a guy that is a lot more safer since he's named the starter, he could be an amazing pickup for this week. Next running back to talk about here is Mr. Kareem Hunt, running back of the Cleveland Browns, 49.9% ownership percentage on NFL.com. Now, he averaged 18.4 PPR points in 2017 as a rookie in Kansas City. He averaged 20.9 PPR points in 2018 in Kansas City. And then you might be wondering, what happened to Kareem Hunt? Now, you probably know what happened to Kareem Hunt. You know that he did some things that were not the best for Mr. Kareem Hunt, but at the end of the day, he is okay, and he's back on the Cleveland Browns. But to me, right now, Kareem Hunt is pretty much just a handcuff. They're going to ease him in. They're going to go with just the tip this week. Week 10. I think eventually they could move into giving him much more of a role, but right now he's a guy that I'm going to be letting ride the pine. Now, if you are a Nick Chubb owner and he is on your waiver wire, he is going to be the number one pickup for me. Because if Nick Chubb goes down, Kareem Hunt is a locked and loaded running back one. Now onto the wide receiver section of the video. Now, if you guys have enjoyed thus far, make sure to click that subscribe button down below. Now let's get right into this. Zach Pascal, wide receiver of the Indianapolis Colts, 3.2% ownership on NFL.com. Now, a couple of weeks ago, he actually blew up and had a few good games thus far this season. But what I was saying back then is, who the fook is this guy? Because he was useless in fantasy football. He was putting up a few good games, but now I believe he is very useful in fantasy football. He's my number one wideout pickup on the week. T.Y. Hilton is out. Paris Campbell is out. T.Y. Hilton should be out a couple of weeks. Paris Campbell, I'm not sure when he's going to be coming back. He's going to have surgery, I believe. So he might be out for a long time, too. So it's going to be the Zach Pascal show. Now, the one thing to worry about, though, is if Jacoby Brissett, Jacoby Moneybags doesn't end up playing this week, and it is Mr. Hoyer, I would be a bit more worried. But even with that said, I do like Zach Pascal against Miami this week. Great week 9 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. 5 receptions on 6 targets for 76 yards and 1 touchdown. 18.6 PPR points. Next wide out here is Devante Parker, wide receiver of the Miami Dolphins, 5.4% ownership on NFL.com. Preston Williams is out rest of season with a torn ACL. So that means that Devante Parker is really going to be seeing so many shares of the throwing, of the passes, of the receptions, all that shit on the Dolphins. Obviously, he's not going to actually throw the ball. But he has been a solid wide receiver for the last couple of weeks. 4 tutties in the last 5 games. He only had 1 game where he didn't score a touchdown, and he still performed in fantasy football. Week 4 against the LA Superchargers. 4 for 4, like it's fucking Wendy's, for 70 yards and 1 tutty, 17 PPR points. Week 6 against the Washington Redskins. 3 of 4 for 28 yards and 1 tutty, 11.8 PPR points. Week 7 against the Buffalo Bills. 5 of 10 for 55 yards and 1 touchdown, 16.5 PPR points. Week 8 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, 6 of 8 for 59 yards, 11.9 PPR points. And last week against the New York Football Jets in their first W of the season, 4 of 6 for 57 yards and 1 touchdown, 15.7 PPR points. I really do like Devante Parker because it seems like Mr. Ryan Fitzmagic, as long as Fitzpatrick is the quarterback, he loves throwing the ball to Devante Parker. And since Preston Williams is out for the rest of the season, I really do think Devante Parker is going to be so heavily involved that he is my number 2 pickup at the wide receiver position. But if you need someone rest of season, I would think I'd rather have Devante Parker than Zach Pascal. Next wide out here is Josh Reynolds, wide receiver of the LA Rams, 0.3% ownership on NFL.com. Now, Josh Reynolds to me is much more of a rental. He's a guy that you pick up this week and you can play him this week. But once Brandon Cooks returns, he should be without Brandon Cooks in this game. So that's obviously why Josh Reynolds, to me, it seems like Brandon Cooks is out. So Josh Reynolds will get a huge elevated workload in this game. Before the bye, played well week 8 against the Bengals. Obviously, that's the game that Brandon Cooks got banged up in. So he got a lot of use because he got 8 targets, 3 receptions for 73 yards and 1 tutty, 16.2 PPR points. And we saw last year, actually, Josh Reynolds have some solid fantasy football games while some of those key wide receivers were hurt. So I like when Cooper Kupp was hurt. So I really do believe that Josh Reynolds, while Brandon Cooks is out, is definitely a guy that I'm pretty comfortable starting as a wide receiver 3 type of guy, a flex type of option. Next wide out here is Mr. Cole Beasley. Holy fuck, against the wide receiver of the Buffalo Bills, 8.9% owned on NFL.com. Now, he has been consistent all season, averaging 11.1 PPR points in fantasy football. The last 3 weeks, he has scored and played very well. Week 7 against the Miami Dolphins, 3 of 6 receptions for 16 yards and 1 touchdown, 10.6 PPR points. Week 8 against the Philadelphia Eagles, 3 of 7 for 41 yards and 1 tutty, 13.1 PPR points. And last week, his worst week out of the 3 against the Washington Redskins, 2 of 2 receptions for 13 yards and 1 touchdown, 9.3 PPR points. So, you might be thinking, Nick, why do you think that? Do you think this touchdowns can be consistent? You can score a touchdown every game? Of course not. But a guy that Josh Allen likes throwing the ball so much to in the end zone, to me, is going to be somewhat reliable because the Buffalo Bills have been scoring a lot. They're playing quite well, and they have a pretty soft schedule coming up. So I'm pretty comfortable starting Cole Beasley for the next couple of weeks. And last week, he was down in receptions. 7 receptions, week 8. 6 receptions week 7, and he only got 2 last week. So I think if he got more receptions or more balls thrown his way, I think that he would actually be able to have a much better game. And I think he's pretty reliable because of how much Mr. Josh Allen targets. Now, onto the tight end. So like I said, if you guys have enjoyed the video thus far, please make sure to click that subscribe button down below. This first tight end is Gerald Everett, tight end of the LA Rams, 57.8% ownership on NFL.com. Now, he's likely without Cooks this week. Like I said, in my opinion, Cooks is out, but I just say likely without him because there is still potentially his day-to-day. He may somehow be able to rise up and fucking play, but he had a great week 7, but then played really bad week 8 before the bye. Week 7 against the Atlanta Falcons, 4 receptions on 10 targets for 50 yards and 1 touchdown, 15 PPR points. Then week 8 really shit the bed, needed those huggies against the Cincinnati Bengals, 2 receptions on 3 targets for 15 yards, 3.5 PPR points. Plays the Steelers week 10, so that could be obviously a positive game for Mr. Gerald Everett. Final tight end and final ad of this video is Chris Herndon, tight end, New York Football Jets, 7.8% ownership on NFL.com. So he should play week 10 against the Giants. This should be his debut for the season. This should be a good game for him to come back in against a not so good defense. Sam Darnold, Sammy Mono, kids see ghosts sometimes, Sam Darnold, and Chris Herndon last year had a good connection. Now, obviously this year he looks atrocious, but you would think Sam Darnold would get better with the addition of one of his key targets in Chris Herndon. You see him throw the ball to Ryan Griffin a lot the last couple of games, the other tight end, and now Chris Herndon will be in that spot. Now, some honorable mentions before I end the video. There are some other guys that I think that I didn't bring up that you could add. Now, running back, first one would be Raquel Armstead, backup running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's a handcuff. There's Jalen Samuels. Obviously, he's probably taken, but you can go ahead and try to go get him. There's Ty Johnson, even though he looks like shit. You may still be able to get him. J.D. McKissick, also of the Detroit Lions. And then for the tight ends, there's guys like Noah Fant, who is on bye this week. And then for the wide receivers, there's going to be a lot of wide receivers likely available in your league. If you're in like a 12 to 10 team league and like a 14 team league, it is not looking so well. Guys like A.J. Brown, Corey Davis are still worth pickups for me if you're in a bad spot. So thank you guys all for watching this video. If at any point you ended up enjoying, please make sure to click that subscribe button down below. I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day. Make sure to check out overlaydfs.com. Link down below in the description. Goodbye. I love you all.